All right, everybody. Hey, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you guys are watching this from, whenever, wherever. We are honored to have you guys here on the Mass Media Mastermind Podcasters live stream series out here. Absolutely just jacked up for tonight's call. We've got some great stuff that we want to go through. It's been a couple weeks since we did an episode because of the holidays, and then of course some of the crazy events going on here. But first, I want to give a big shout out to our sponsor, Podcast Business Journal. Check it out, podcastbusinessjournal.com. I am a regular contributor to it, along with a lot of my other friends out there. But Ed Ryan does a great job there with the events. Such great news, nuggets, and articles on podcasting and how to make your show so much better and see what's going on in the industry. So check it out. It's free, podcastbusinessjournal.com. Check it out. But guys, we had a welcome back. Happy New Year. If we haven't talked about this already, 2020. We do have a lot to be excited about. If you're interested in joining our mastermind, definitely do so. It's $97 a month. It includes a lot of great bonuses, hot seats, one-on-one coaching, guest appearances. We'll help you book stuff. You also get a ticket and the replays to the Mass Media Mastermind that we had just a week ago, which was great stuff. But, we had this amazing speakers. Those replays are available. If you're interested, go to massmediasummit.live to just sign up for the replays if you'd like that as well. But anyway, let's get to the meat and potatoes. Why y'all are here? And listen to this. We are honored to have our special guest. She's the founder of the Spark Christian Podcast Conference coming up here February 21st and 22nd in spring in Houston, Texas. She's the host of the By His Faith podcast. Great show.
No, it's By His Grace.
Oh my God.
It's okay. It's By His Grace. So there's a lot of grace.
There's a lot of grace. You're giving me some grace on there. My bad. I'm at a live event right now, actually. So it's kind of funny. Author of The Struggle is Real and So Is God. A book out there. She's an author, blogger, speaker. She's a mom and wife who do an amazing husband, Phillip, and some kids that actually do an amazing job keeping her in line and helping her get everything done. If you'd like to learn more, I would highly encourage you to check out a recent article that our buddy Eric Nevins wrote about her in the first month episode of the podcast magazine launch that just came out a couple of weeks ago. But we are honored to have a fellow Texan who calls Spring, Texas home, the one, the only Misty Phillips out here joining us this evening. How's it going, Misty?
Hey, Scott. Good. Great. Getting excited about Spark and so glad to be here tonight.
Yeah, so let's kind of dive into that. I mean, you've had a very busy, I guess you could say, 18 months for the most part of really rocking and socking and I imagine you sit there, what do I want to accomplish before the decade is done? Let's try to get all this done, huh?
No, and it's actually the opposite. So last year when everybody was making goals, typically, the end of the year, everybody's reflecting, they're thinking about the new year. Well, I was planning my podcast for 2019. January 1 is when I launched. Well, I knew that I would have my book would be coming out. I was working with another ministry and had another book come out, and really a lot of this took me by the surprise because while everyone was planning, I was just kind of doing, and I just kind of went from one thing to the next, and now here we are, and we've got a podcast conference. So
well, we put on a lot of events in the past, and I know how crazy it can be to put on an event. Let's talk about, because a lot of people think about, I want to put on events, I want to speak more. And there's a whole lot of difference between thinking about it and actually going out and doing that. So where did you get the idea? Well, you know what? Let's do a conference. Let's go ahead and run with that. Because that's a big undertaking, right?
It is, especially for somebody who's never really been to a podcast conference or run a huge conference. So it's a big step of faith is what it is, but it was an answer to prayer. I had another book I was working on and I shelved that project and just began praying about my season of life. And I run the Christian Women in Media for Houston. And I also have a mastermind that's an in-person meetup kind of place. And I love that. I just love to gather people together, and hospitality is one of my things. And I love to throw a party. And so I was like, this was an answer to prayer, because I was like, how do these things line up with a podcast? And it was a podcast conference. And so I had no idea what I was stepping off into when I stepped into it. But it has been an amazing whirlwind, and it's been 4 months from idea to event. And so, most normal, sane people would give themselves a year or at least 6 months, but not me. But it's good. It's exciting.
Well, and the beautiful thing is there's such a great community too, in the religious and spirituality and Christian. I mean, podcasters alone are pretty cool back, but you've really got a tight knit group in the Christian religious space. I mean, I know a bunch of people that are speaking with our buddy Eric Nevins and Thomas, who was a big mentor for you, helping you with the in your article about doing the crowdfunding as well. We'll get to that in a second too, which I think is phenomenal. And then of course you got Dave Jackson, everybody coming in and speaking there as well too. So when you know who you want to have speaking, it kind of makes it a little bit easier, doesn't it? Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. It was really great, because I started thinking about who would I want to do an event with. And so I had a very short list, and every person I reached out to, they were like, yes, this is amazing. This is so needed, because there's not a Christian podcast conference. There are great, phenomenal podcast conferences out there. There's great virtual summits like what you do. There's even some writing and speaking conferences that will talk about podcasting, but there was nothing specifically for Christian podcasts to meet in a live event. And so that's what I wanted to do, is gather people from all over the place to make an impact for the kingdom.
Well, that's a big thing. I'm glad you bring that in, because I think a lot of people, when they start out podcasting, they try to go wider than going a little bit nichier, going tinier, going in and be more focused. I think it's easier when you can control a niche or kind of own a niche. And then you saw a need, and there was an obvious need out there. Yes, there's some great conventions. You've got Podcast Movement, you've got Podfest, you have PodCom, you got all these other ones that are bigger events that are very broad in nature. But honestly, going to those larger events, there was a big lack. You didn't see a segment on Christian podcasting a lot of them. You may have seen something on sports or comedy or history, a little bit on real estate. Sometimes we've seen it. But I've been to most of the major ones. I'm like, there's not really need. And then when I saw that, you're going to be like, oh my God, this is great. I got to reach out to this lady, because I think there's a need in that niche, which, religious podcasts, there's a large chunk of them out there.
Yeah.
But for such a big segment of what's out there in podcasts, there's no need. And you really are hitting a nail on the head.
Yeah. And I really wanted to connect other Christian podcasters together. But we even have people that don't have podcasts, that don't even plan to have a podcast, but they want to meet podcasters. And so that's why maybe I have a lot of author friends, since I'm an author. So I have a lot of author friends who are coming, because they want to get to know podcasters. So yeah, it's going to be really cool. I can't wait to see what God does with all of the connections.
Yeah. And that's the beauty. You put good people in a room, good things are going to happen.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Now, you've worked with a lot of groups. You were mentioned about, you've got the Local Mastermind there. Why don't we talk a little about that? Because I think that probably helped you kind of spawn what you're doing, is what I would think a little bit, huh?
Yeah. So when I started, let me just give you a little bit of history. So I was a career woman. I worked for Enron, was married and had kids, and got to a point in my career that I'm like, I need to stay home. And so I gave it all away. I walked away from everything and spent the next 20 years at home raising my boys and homeschooling. And then my oldest son went off to college, and I went, oh my God, if I don't have something to do, I will drive my boys crazy. So the Lord had given me a message, and I needed to write a book. And I went to She Speaks, which is a large conference that's put on by Proverbs 31 Ministries for women, and met up with some people that were from Houston, had never met them before. We met in the airport. We experienced the conference together. And this mastermind concept was just starting to resurface again. It was starting to get popular. This was about 4 years ago. And they were like, let's start a mastermind. And we're like, what is that supposed to look like? And we had no idea what we were doing, but we knew that we needed fellowship, because we knew that what we were embarking on was difficult and oftentimes a lonely pursuit in terms of writing. There's a lot of time that's solitary, and we knew that we needed community. So it really began as a writing and speaking mastermind. And then I had a friend ask me to host a meeting for her with a group she has. And I just really decided to blow it out of the water. So now I've got entrepreneurs, and I've got podcasters, and I've got all kinds of people that meet in my home once a month. So I keep the group small because they actually do come to my house. And but there's just something about being together in person. So I've always loved that live, interaction. So yeah, that definitely influenced what I'm doing now.
Now, when you were sitting around thinking about the event, and you were reaching out to all your friends to have them come on and speak, and everybody's willing to yes, come speak. Did you have a bit of an itinerary? Did you have a theme? I mean, more of a theme or mission that you wanted to see accomplished. If you could get one thing from your event, and I think that's what a lot of people do. I know that's what we've done. But if you get one thing from the event, what would you call being a successful event to you? What's that one thing for you, Misty?
Yeah. Well, it would be twofold. And first and foremost would be to honor the Lord. And then secondly is to build a community of Christian podcasters that can network with one another, that can collaborate with one another, that can encourage and inspire. Because when I started my podcast, I had no idea what I was doing. And I thought, I want people to be trained by professionals, but I also, more importantly, I want to give them a place to come and to network and collaborate so that they know who, each other is, and they can help one another and be on each other's shows and promote one another. And so that's really community. If you boil it all down, I wanted to form a community.
And you're doing that. I mean, hands down, you're doing that. You've got a great lineup of speakers. You've got a great lineup of content too. I know you're excited about that.
Yeah.
Anything surprise you so far from putting on an event? You're like, oh, I didn't expect that, or oh wow, that was a surprise, good or bad, or maybe a little bit of both to share with everybody out there.
Well, I don't know. Maybe that will come afterwards, because right now it has literally just been drinking from a fire hose every day, trying to, book all the speakers, secure the venue, publicize it, do the marketing. I just had such a compressed time frame that it's just been like every day I'm like, okay, what do we got to do next? So there's a lot to it. And so I think probably that is the thing that for anybody that goes, oh, that looks really easy. There are a lot of moving parts, and just lots of things to consider and to figure out. And so, yeah, it's a big job, but it's really cool is that everything that I've done in my past, even when I worked back in corporate America 25 years ago, all of my skills are sort of coming to bear for such a time as this. And that's really cool. And I've got an amazing team that I have surrounded myself with, from the event coordinator to every single speaker and sponsor, and even the attendees. It's not about me. It's about everybody. And so that's what I'm most excited about.
Well, and that's the one thing. I mean, we talked on the phone, and then talking and seeing a lot of people have. I think that's the first thing, and first and foremost, when an event, it's got to be about the attendees in the community. And you're doing a great job of that. I think we've all been to different events where it's not about the community; it's more about the person who's supposedly putting on the event, and that's not the right way to do it. It's a servant leadership mindset that you have out there, and it's obvious. And I think that's one of the best ways to make things happen. And then it'll build momentum. Now you've got momentum leading up here. We're filming this. You're 2 weeks out.
Yep.
You continue momentum is going to come up to the event. Now the question I have is, what's your plans after the event? Besides taking a 2-day nap, probably. You know what I mean?
Exactly. So the nap is first, but we're already working on the date for next year, and scouting venues, because we know that we had to limit the size of the event this year because of the space that we're in. But it's a perfect, there's so many things that I'm learning that next year will be easier, because there will be things in place. But for this year, it was a lot of new things for me to learn and to do. And so I purposefully kept it small so that I could focus on building that community. But people are already asking me, what's next? What's next? What's next? So yeah, we're already we're putting the things out there so that we can get our date for next year.
Yeah, that's awesome. Now, how many people are you expecting to attend this first round? Where's your
Yeah, so 150 is what we're looking at, and I think that's big enough to be big, and small enough to get. I think it'll really accomplish that community aspect. So yeah, that's our goal. Our facility can only fit 150, and I think we're gonna be maybe 150, a little bit over. So
Well, but hey, 150, that's your first event. I know a lot of people that've been doing events for years, struggling to put 150 people in the seats. And you're doing that in your first time out, which is to be commended. Yay.
Thank
Cheerio.
you.
Cheers.
Yeah.
That's great. And it can only go but up as you learn and experience and stuff like that, and you figure out, hey, what works and what didn't work, and going from there. So I would definitely tell you, hey, make sure you have that offering to sign up for next year's ready to sign before people leave there for you, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's our plan. That's why we've been working so hard to figure out date, and even kind of scoping out venues, because we feel like, probably be a little bit bigger next year.
Yeah. Now, you've done a really great job. We talked about the book. We'll get to that in a second, and then the podcast and this event. What, for those podcasters that are listening out there, let's do a couple of things. Let's start it off. What's the best bit of advice you'd give to somebody who is looking to start a podcast but have been kind of fearful because they're afraid of, I think I got to have all these things in place? What advice would you give to those that are on the call or listen to the replay of this?
Yeah, so I was that person. My family bought my mic a couple of years before, and here's my mic for those who are on video. And I literally moved it all around my house, all over the place. Yeah, exactly. Because I was afraid of the technology. Now, my husband is a tech guru, and so I don't know why I was afraid of that, but there was something about it that I wanted to make sure that I knew what I was doing and that I had a purpose. And I was really so busy with the ministry that I was involved in and writing a book that I didn't have a lot of time to research it. So, and then I stepped out and I was like, this is so cool. So what I would say to anybody is, if you think that it's something you're supposed to do, or if you just got, you're not really sure, just do it. What's the worst possible case thing that can happen? You don't like it. You don't do it for very long, or you might step into it and find out this is really amazing. And one of the things that I love about it is that your message can just go all over the world. And that was one of the things that I saw with my podcast. I'm like, if my independent podcast can reach the other side of the world and all around the world, and I've got people that I have no idea who they are listening, what could I do if I got a bunch of us together? Like, how cool would that be? So yeah, I would just say do it. Just do it.
Just do it and realize that the technology is not that difficult, not that hard.
And there are people who are really skilled at doing it. And so if you don't want to have to do that, for me, my husband produces every episode for me. But there are companies that you can hire to do that. Like, there's a lot of different ways to skin a cat. So yeah.
Meow. Now, I had the podcast and then decided to write your book there. And we can see a picture of it over your right shoulder there. The struggle is real, and so is God. So let's talk a little about going from a podcast and then writing a book. How hard was that? Did you make it a system to kind of write a little bit, or you just sit down and write it all at once, or how did that kind of come around?
Yeah, no. The book it took me 3 years to write. it's an in-depth Bible study. And so I needed to make sure that I was theologically sound. And it's a very interesting thing. When you go to write a book, sometimes God has to continue to write the message
Yeah.
in and through you in the process. And I was still homeschooling my kids, and I have a special needs son. So I was writing in what I call the crack time, so it was just little bits at a time, but to make something that was cohesive. And then I was studying and researching and editing and editing and editing and editing. It was a lot of different pieces. And so yeah, that took me a couple of years, but then that's when I knew I wanted my podcast. So The Struggle is Real. So it talks about the struggles that we face in life and how we're overcomers in Christ. But everybody struggles. The big struggles, little struggles. We have those daily annoyances that just try to rob us of our joy. And then there's like life altering, life crushing things that happen that really test your faith.
Mhm.
And I wanted to give voice to all of those things, because if someone knows, this person survived this, or they went through that and God did this, just to know that we're not alone in the struggles. Because in our Instagram, Pinterest, picture perfect world, we can look at everybody else and think, wow, they have the most amazing life. They travel all over the world. Everything's great. But you know what? No, we all have the same struggles, maybe not exactly the same, but we can definitely be encouraged from one another. And so the book really drove the podcast, because I wanted to give voice to struggles, but not focus on the struggle. Wanted to focus on how God gets us through, and that he does get us through. So yeah, that's kind of how that all played out.
And I'm going to make a comment based on the story that our buddy Eric wrote about. Yeah, how the heck did you break both arms at the same time? Okay.
Yeah. So I was in a bicycling accident, and my oldest son was training for the MS 150. It's a race that goes from Houston to Austin. He was in college and he was working full time, and he was in the honors college. He was taking a super heavy load, and he wasn't training. So like a good mom who wants to encourage her son, I was like, let's get on our bike. It was a warm day, and I grew up not wearing a helmet. So I'm like, I don't need a helmet. Got on a bike that wasn't my bike, because I had given my bike to my younger son who had outgrown his bike. So I was riding a different bicycle that was a street racing bike that I wasn't, familiar with the brakes. And my headphones, I was wearing little earbuds, and one of them came out and it started to go for the tire. And I saw that, and I didn't want it to get caught in the tire because it ripped it out of my ear. And I pulled that front brake, which I didn't realize was the front brake, and I catapulted. And then was like this for a year. I couldn't do anything in a house full of boys and men. So that was, that was an interesting year for sure. And then I decided to write a book after that. So,
well, the only reason I bring that up is you mentioned it made you really learn how to delegate and rely on people. And I think so many of us as podcasters, authors, or people who run an event have a hard time delegating because we are control freaks. Can we agree with that a little bit? Yes?
yeah, I'm still struggling with it. And I have an amazing team of people surrounding me, and I am still struggling with it. But we have to, as leaders, learn to delegate and learn to trust other people to do a good job with something. Because I think that's where, we feel like nobody's going to take care of this as good as I do. But we've got to, absolutely, that's something that we struggle with and something we need to learn to let go.
What's been the biggest thing that you delegated that you were like, I'm like, I don't want to delegate this, and you did it? You're like, oh, I should have done that a whole lot sooner.
Yeah, so I had an event coordinator who had put on many productions, come to me right when I announced the conference, and she said, I want to produce your event. And I was like, oh, that's awesome. How much is that going to cost me? Because I was starting from scratch with no
Right.
money and I wanted to be a good steward. And so I was trying not to plan beyond the resources that were coming in. And she was like, the Lord put it on my heart. And I'm supposed to do this for you for free. And I'm like, what? Like, who does that, first of all? And second of all, I knew she was there, but I wasn't ready to relinquish control of the event. And so I really actually just allowed her to start doing things. And she has been the calm to my absolute stinking crazy. So Dorothy, she's your makeup expert. She's also a celebrity makeup artist. She is the bee's knees, I tell you what. And I just wish that I would have allowed her in sooner, because I really held things tightly and I started to get really, really stressed.
Mm.
And a little bit of anxiety was setting in, and I'd never experienced that before. The stress was making me clench my jaw, was getting very, that I'm a recovering perfectionist. And so but once she came in, she rocked it, and she rocked my world and turned some things on their head. And I was like, oh, that is such a better idea. So yeah, so glad that she's involved, and she'll be the one at the conference with the pink hair, so you can't miss her.
Marketing right there for you. Marketing, definitely. Now, you've got people coming that aren't podcasts, but that are authors or other things like that. Are you planning on are you doing like some group networking at the event, or have like a library for people to have their books, or are you doing anything like that to help entwine everybody together a little bit, or no?
Yeah, so we're in breakout sessions. We're in one room all together. And, that's kind of the big thing. We've got some fun things that we've got planned. So in the middle, so we're going to go workshop, and then we're going to get up and we're going to speed network in the room. We're going to make those introverts get up and go meet new people. And then we're going to workshop. And then we're all going to break for lunch, and we're going to leave the facility, and we're going to go to some amazing restaurants, but people can group up into small groups and get to know each other and do that. And then we're going to come back, and we're going to session. But then we got a catch box microphone. Do you know what that is?
Yes, I do. That's the
It's a
square box that
tossable.
you can toss.
Yeah. Yeah. So we're doing a town hall forum where people have been sending questions in ahead of time. And so we're just going to let everybody in the audience answer questions and ask questions. And, everybody only gets a minute with the mic, and then they've got to speak their piece and toss it. And so I think that'll be a lot of fun. And then Friday night, we decided to give the speakers an opportunity, because I don't have room for them to bring their books, but we're going to set that up on Friday night. And just, if you have been at the conference and there's a particular speaker that you really want to talk to, we're just going to have that be open. And then we're going to close it down. So if people want to still hang out, they can, but they don't feel like they have to. They don't feel like they're missing out. So they'll go to dinner, and then they'll come back, and we're trying to build in some networking time, because like I said, that community is so important. So we're trying to make it fun and lots of training, and really put a lot of thought and prayer. But we packed it in this year. So it's going to be fun.
That's awesome, and I love the hot mic aspect of things, or the square mic where you can toss it. You're gonna have a hard time limiting some people to a minute if I know some of the people talking there. Now,
and then we've got expert panels. So I was just going to say, we've got expert panels, and so we try to break it up a little bit. So it's good.
Okay. Now you've got the website, right? You want to give a shout out what the website is there for everybody?
Yeah, it's Spark christianpodcastconference.com. I know that is the longest URL in the whole world. And my husband said, you can't do this. I said, well, the Lord gave me the name Spark. It has to be Spark, but there's already lots of Sparks. And so I knew that, and I could do Spark, and there's people that have a Spark podcast. And so I was like, we have to differentiate it, and it's Christian. And I want everybody to know it's Christian. So it's Spark Christian Podcast Conference.com. Although I did have a lady ask me today, she said, if I don't have a Christian podcast, can I come? And I said, you absolutely can come.
Right. Everybody is welcome there. That brings me. So share that story, how you came across what Spark was. I mean, let's talk a little about that. Because sometimes, hey, we're sent messages, but we kind of we ignore them as long as we can sometimes because we're not ready for it. But how did you come across the name Spark?
Yeah. So this is crazy, but I sat down with my moleskin and a pen and the Lord, and he just really, I was praying about who do I ask, who to be involved. And I just started ticking off things, and I have filled that notebook completely up. It has been my companion through this process, but that's where the name came from. That's where the people I initially wanted to reach out. And then every time I talk to somebody, they go, hey, do you know this person? Or, you know who you really need to have here? And there were people that I wanted to have come, but I couldn't afford them this year. And so I had a lot of people, be very generous with me in terms of coming to this event because they wanted to get behind it because they were really excited, and the Lord has provided for all the things. So,
well, it's definitely sparking a lot of entertainment, enjoyment, and interest for you out there for sure. That's the beauty of it, because it's you've done such a great job. You've really rolled it out. You didn't let the fact that, as you said earlier, I want for those that are listening to it, you said, I've never been to a podcast convention before, but I'm going to do one, which is kind of like, what the heck are you thinking? But when you surround yourselves with good people, good network, good fellowship, good things happen, people can guide you along the way and go from there. And I want to commend you on that, because most people let things like that stop them from going out and doing some stuff. Oh, I have an idea, but I'm never going to take action because I've never done it before. Hey, there's all types of events. You're doing a great job. It's going to evolve, right? It's going to evolve definitely for you.
Absolutely. And I'm kind of the opposite of that. I go, oh, I could do that. And then I go, oh, wait a minute. I don't even know what I'm doing. But no, I do. I have surrounded myself with an amazing team of people all the way around. I even have a PR person who has come to me for free, who's a local woman who does PR and is, getting me radio and all different kinds of interviews. And she was like, the Lord wants me to do this for you. And I was like, well, that's cool, because, it's just been a labor of love, but it's also been just, when I said yes, God opened doors that I could not open. And he did things that in my own strength would not be possible, but because he's in it, the world's my oyster. And yeah, it's been fun for me to watch the connections that I'm making with people and the doors that are opening. It's been a lot of fun.
What are most of the people coming from Texas, or do you have people coming? I know you've got some people coming from out of state, but is there anybody traveling from somewhere you're just kind of surprised?
Asia.
Wow. That's big.
I'm like, please don't bring the coronavirus.
Hey, should we get some masks sponsored by somebody just in case?
That's right. We might need that. No. I think he's in, so a pastor from, and my son said to me one day, he goes, well, that's not going to be worth it. And I went, what? But what he was saying is that's a really big, for somebody to come from Asia, but I think they have family in the United States, and it just worked out. The timing of the conference worked out for them. I also have a lady coming from Mexico who is giving away a book to every person. She wrote a book on Christian business that comes out the week before Spark. And then she even had the cover branded for Spark. And so, wow. Yeah, so that was a lot of fun, and yeah, I'm just surprised all the time. We literally have people coming from all over the country, from the Northeast, the Northwest, California, the Heartland, the East Coast, the Deep South. I mean, literally, the people are coming from everywhere.
Do you have you got some sponsors for the event? Are you still looking for more sponsors or anything like that? Whether
Well,
it's for this event for future?
yeah, absolutely. I mean, this event would have not have been possible without our sponsors. And so, yeah, if you want to sponsor, you're welcome to. There's all levels. You know, we put it as low as $250 if you just want to help provide coffee, because I think we're going to need a lot of coffee. And, you know, they go up if you want to sponsor the whole conference, we can make that happen too. So, and every level sort of in between, and definitely going forward for future years. You know, there was one company that was immediately interested, but I didn't realize that when I picked the date, that podcast movement in LA, the Evolutions is the week before, and then the NRB, which is the National Radio Broadcasting, is the week after. So I sandwiched a Christian podcast conference in between a podcast conference and a radio broadcasting conference. And they were already committed for Q1. And so they were like, we definitely let us know as soon as you have the date for next year, because we're there. So
that'll happen. But that's okay. I mean, it's great. That's great stuff. You know, hey, let's be next time. You're building that pipeline. You're building you have an international conference now. That's the thing that you got to add to the name now. International.
That's right. First year at International. So that's really cool. Yeah, we've got Blueberry and Buzzsprout and Supporting Cast by Slate. We definitely have like a mixture of podcast, and then we've got authors and local people and all kinds of people who have come together to sponsor this event. So
that's phenomenal. That's such a badass. Sorry, I'm excited. I get giddy when I see people doing great stuff and above and beyond, and just kicking butt and taking names there for you. And I wanted to bring up here for everybody. I have the website pulled up so everybody can take a look here. Spark Podcast Conference. There's a schedule for everybody here. We'll just kind of scroll down here so we can get main sessions, town hall. There's the day one. This is a Friday, and then day two is Saturday. It's great. So if you're driving in, you fly in, you're flying at 2 nights hotel. If you're driving in from somewhere in the big state of Texas or Louisiana nearby, you get up early, drive in, and spend the time there. But that's the beautiful thing. Now, the podcast awards. That was the question. I was like, there's something I wanted to ask. What kind of podcast awards are you doing for the event?
Yeah, so we took everybody that was signed up at that point, and we said, submit a podcast. So we even allowed people on our speaking team to submit a podcast. We took 10 categories. And this was something that we're really thinking about future years and how we can build into that, and really incentivize people to want to come to Spark. So that's what we did. And then I've got a team of people who are judging all of those categories. And so we are excited to find out who the winners will be at the end of the conference.
Do you have a name for the award, like the Emmy or the Oscar? Do you have the Spark? What's the name of the award going to be?
Yeah, I don't know. That's a good one. I got to think about that.
There you go. You got something come up. The Holy Grail, the Grail Awards. I don't know. The good stuff there. And then basically you've got, I want to pull up here, where's the best way for people to get signed up. They can go over here to the website and where is it here?
Okay, so if you click on this little star logo over here, that's going to take you to the main page.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, so that's the kind of the about, and then I can't see because I think over here on the right hand side there it should say register, or it's going to pop up right there. Register now.
Register. Yep. Click there, take it over there. That'll take you in over here. Easy done there, guys. The early bird sold out, but the gold is $197, VW $249. And then you're going to do the professional. Ooh, you're having a place where people get professional headshots. That is such a great add-on. Oh my gosh, so many people need a good headshot.
Well, and I'll tell you what, my photographer is amazing. So if you look at my podcast cover art in one session, my Bible study actually is a picture that we took in that photo session. I've been able to take a session that I did with brand me, and she has an amazing eye. And so I was like, I know people are going to need podcast cover art. They're going to need headshots. So let's do that. Then we've got expert podcasting appointments. We've got even a literary agent appointments. So if you're thinking about writing a book, we've got people to talk to. They also do marketing. And I'm really excited that we are offering a digital pass as well. So if you come to the conference and you spend the whole time in the lobby networking like I would do, then you can buy it and watch it when you get home. And for the people who just absolutely are not able to make it, they can still see what it's all about.
That's right. And I think if you use the discount code SC20, it knocks a little bit off too for people, right? I think.
That's right. Yeah, that 20 knocks off 20%. So.
Which is awesome for everybody there. That's such a cool thing. I appreciate you doing that for everybody here. So
yeah.
And then you've got the social there to connect with everybody too. Just a great job all the way around, Misty. Just absolutely like standing ovation. I mean, you've done the hard part. You're in the home stretch. You're going to take a break, and then can't wait to see what the wave of it's a tsunami of momentum that you've got rock and rolling here out there for you. It's kind of whether you spark, what is it? You're kindling so many podcasts there. You're lighting a match and starting a wave across the country, which is just to be commended. Good stuff for you, Misty.
Great, thank you so much. I'm super excited.
Yeah. Any questions from anybody out there? We got some people on here tonight. Let's see here. We got anybody online on the Facebook page asking questions? Let's see here, because we've got different watch parties out there. I'm sorry, location. That's one of the big things. People are curious about location. That might be important, right?
Might be important, yes. Yeah, we're in Northwest Houston. It's at the Marriott Spring Hill Suites. I wanted to do it in a hotel, so that way if anybody wanted to linger, they wouldn't have to go very far. And for all the people coming out of town, we could just all kind of be together. So
perfect. There we go. There's our lodging there for you. Not too far away from Bush Intercontinental Airport as well, 20, 30 minutes away there. Perfect.
Yeah. And she just extended the room block for me, and the rooms are only $89.
Oh my gosh, that's great.
I know, it's such a steal. So I think they'll be, you can get that through the weekend.
Good stuff there. Well, hey, Misty, I want to say thank you for coming on here tonight and sharing so much great stuff about what you got going on. Look forward to seeing you. It's just 2 weeks away. I'm looking forward to actually meeting you in person and
I know, I can't wait. Yeah, I'm super excited.
Do I need to bring a Red Bull, a double latte? What do we need? Monster. What's your drink of caffeine to keep it going?
Yeah, you bring what is going to be good for you. So yeah, it'll be good. It'll be good.
Good stuff. Good stuff out there. All right, guys and gals, that's going to wrap it up for this episode of the Misty Mastermind webinar calls here for you. Check it out, sparkchristianpodcastconference.com. Check it out. Get signed up, and trust me, it'll be an event that you want to be. An intimate event of 150 new of your best friends. Who doesn't want to have that, right? And then also check out Misty's podcast, and if you got a chance, go over to Amazon and grab a copy of her book as well there too.
Well, and let me tell you something else, that we also put together a resource, a podcast planner that is for sale on Amazon. So over our Christmas holiday, I said, I have all these new people who are coming to the conference. And one of the hardest things for me was to consolidate all of my all of the interviews and all of my ideas and all of my contacts, and to plan. And so I wanted to create a book that was all in one place. So that resource is available on Amazon too.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's such filling in a gap and filling a need that so many people need help with initially. That's great stuff there. Well, hey, Misty, you have a great rest of your evening. Enjoy the rest of your week, and we will see you and your sanity return here in just 2 weeks, huh?
I look forward to seeing you then.
All right, awesome. All right, guys, that's going to wrap it up for this evening. Have a great rest of your night, and we'll see you all at the top, everybody. Bye.